Okay. Well, the Yashakech is to Rabbi Smith for for going ahead with the continuing the Shiurim. I hope I'm seeing the same screen you're seeing. Okay, I'll try to do is I'll try just go through the Nekudas HaPerek a little, as well as then go through a few of the Inyanim. So just to get a clarity of just a reminder of what the perek is actually talking about, then try to go through a little biurim, say general, maybe a little general biurim and some diukim as well on the perek. Okay, so we're going to focus on perek Ches and Tes. It's really a continuation of the two prongs are really connected to each other. The black font is really what the black font is sort of the perek. The blue nekudas is what we're going to discuss a little in the sheer aspect of it, which I'm going to go through a little through the entire perek before going through the shiurim part. Okay, so the nekuda we're speaking about now is that idea of the achdus, even though there is the Bria item, even though there's the Indian of the Welt, this still does not take away from the achdus of the Eibishter, and everything is still bottom and seers, everything is still nechel and bin perek. And so the nekuda that the perek starts is mashkot of Rambam and Kodesh Baruch Muchutz v'atzmus hakol echad, that Muchutz v'atzmus v'daita hakol echad mamish achdus apshuta, that is not only in the idea of the das of the Eibishter, the das of the Eibishter that is really in the negea to all the keiches of the Eibishter. Now, there's a lashon Rambam is the aspects. The Rambam sort of focuses on the aspects of das, but even though the Rambam mentions specifically the aspects of das, that's not only the aspects of das, which is one amiyuch of the Eibishter. It is all aspects of Elikus, in the spheres of Elikus, the midas, and in all aspects. These are not the Shans of Tanya. They're just my sort of points of the Sikumim. This Nekuda is in all the Keiches of the Eibishter, not only b'Midaisav, it is in the Chabad of the Eibishter. Sorry, it's in, first of all, the Midas of the Eibishter, Yechan and Racham, all these things that we describe the Eibishter, they are not a Dover Neista, they're all one of the Eibishter, one of Mutvat Musay, as well as the Seichel, the Eibishter, Chacham, etc., as well as Birtzoinai. And we'll pick up a little on what the stress and the chiddush of each of these nekudas are. Just go through one more part here in the perek. That the Alter Rebbe continues that this inyan of understanding how this is all one of the Eibishter and it's complete achdus. The Eibishter, this inyan, actually the Alter Rebbe quotes the Rambam. A person could not properly understand this inyan, this idea of achdus apshuto, this complete achdus of the Eibishter, that's all echad, because by a person we have all these different keiches. By a person, the highest, the nekuda is by a person, the highest is the chachma, and the chachma is what feeds into all the lower levels. And by a person, the highest darga is chachma, but by the Eibishter, the chachma is equal to asiyah. Now, the highest level is equal to the lowest level, and therefore it is not. Therefore, it is not a. Therefore, it's not a. Therefore, so we can't really compare ourselves to the way it is by the Eibishter. Yeah, that's all connected. So let's just look at a few nekudas. That is sort of, let's just focus on these nekudas of the perek. So first of all, in the first nekuda, it's not an inya of murkav. Now, the inya of murkav is, in other words, whenever we speak about an aspect being made up of parts, I'm not sure the best way if we should be going through it more inside. If you have ha'aris, have a better way of doing it, Rabbi Smith, anyone else, You could let me know if we should be doing a little more inside what the Nyanim Bechlau. So just make a mixture but of both. So let's just see a little the Shittas Harambam. This is ready. We're going to leave a little the Tanya itself. Just it's interesting this inyan which is spoken about a few times. This nakuda of the machlekes of the Rambam and the idea of the Rambam calling the Eibishter who am I do. In other words, the Rambam defines the Eibishter. The Rambam brings up this nakuda. The Eibishter is who v'mchusav adaita kol echad, and says who amadu who idei who ido. The Eibishter knows everything in him. He is the knower. He is the power to know and the thing being known. It's all one in the Eibishter. It's an actus pshuta. All these things are one with the Eibishter. It's not fragmented. It's not murkav. It's not knowing standing outside of him. And the Rambam continues to say, this is taxanu and understand. This is in Hilchos say that here in perek base. It's just interesting to note, and I'm going to share what the Tzemach writes in Shar Mitzvahs Hatfilah.
Just by the way, my Chavrusa had an interesting question today. If I could just butt in, he said, "How you talking? The Rambam uses the word mada and not chachma, being that chachma is 2 levels higher than mada, unless that's in general."
I don't think mada means das in our sense of das. I think mada means knowledge, sort of mada meaning that idea of chachma in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
That information, like
so mada meaning generalized, like Chabad saying chacham ben das, so to say together.
Right, the koyach of idea.
Okay.
What is on your screen right now, if I may ask? Still see the PowerPoint? Did you see
You see the PowerPoint with the sidebar document recovery?
Okay, fine. So then 1 second. So I have to share the other screen then. So basically the 1 second, let's just try to work this out. Stop share and share something else. Even though the Alter Rebbe here is actually bringing out in the Kuda that the Rambam is actually the Rambam is agreeing to this concept of Pale. It's interesting to note that there is a famous machlekes about between the Rambam and the Maharal, which those who are, I guess, if you're Isaac and the Rambam, maybe have a lot of hours in this. The Rambam basically calls the Eibishter the idea of Huamadu Huyedei Huyedu. The Rambam goes to that Tugang of the Eibishter being Das, Eibishter being a Dea. So this is from Shar Mitzvah Tefillah, perek of Tes, where the Tzemach goes by Riches and quotes it's quotes Machlekes. A little earlier on, the Rambam the Tzemach quotes this. Quotes quotes the Rambam and says the Nakuda it's something beyond understanding, and he says, but the Rambam ends up saying that Huamadu Yedeh the in of Das. And by the way, I found this nice print of not sure. I just searched Derech Mitzvah, and it's the first time I found a Derech Mitzvah, which is a complete Derech Mitzvah PDF, which has Nakudas and broken into paragraphs. If you do the Derech Mitzvah, I'd suggest looking at this. So we are showing this is the Maral. The Maral attacks Rambam and says, how could you call the Eibishter the inyan of Das? Even it's a level of Das which is beyond understanding. It's a level of Das which not only is beyond understanding, we're not even beginning to understand. Right away, the Maral comes and attacks the Rambam and says the Razal called the Eibishter Kodesh Baruch Hu v'lo nikra Seichel Baruch Hu kamit atzmusay le'nei actual nivda mikol geshem v'guf mikol nitzaim. HaKodesh, we know Kodesh means Kodesh Amuvdal. We cannot define the Eibishter besides saying he is beyond. In other words, we can't give him any definitive any chiyuvdik definition. We can't say what he is. All we can say about the Eibishter is Shehu Kodesh, that he is beyond us. Shein Kodesh Ne'emar Mishu Nivdo, who is Baruch Pashut B'Tachlis Apshitas. The Eibishter is absolute simplicity. The Eibishter is absolute simplicity. Pashut Apshitas, Mizeh Ba'atzim Shehu Pashut Apshitas ain't Davar Nivdo Mena. This is the Kinukuda. Since the Eibishter is Pashut B'Tachlis Apshitas,
he just called me back.
Since the Eibishter is Pashut B'Tachlis Apshitas, since the Eibishter is Pashut B'Tachlis Apshitas, that is what actually allows us to say that nothing is disconnected from him. In other words, once you are something, that means you're that and not something else. The only time you can say the Eibishter is not anything, that there's nothing beyond being what the Eibishter is by calling the Eibishter Pashut, simplistic or completely undefined, then nothing is a steer to that definition. Once you give any type of gather, as high, lofty, and as spiritual a gather might be, as soon as you use a gather, that is already marked the Eibishter. The Eibishter is Pashut, which means he has no gather, and therefore that allows him to be not disconnected from anything. He's able. He knows everything, and he is able to everything because Eibishter is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Loi HaSeichel Baruch Hu. So this is a famous upset of the Maharal on the Rambam. So this Alter Rebbe already actually discusses in perek Beis of Tanya, and there the Alter Rebbe says, sort of the Yishuv, the way that we are miyashiv the stira is that the Alter Rebbe says that we are talking about, it depends, we're talking about the level of the Eibishter Lifnat Tzimtzum, or once the Eibishter is nislabish in Koiches, once the Eibishter is nislabish in all these Gedarim. In other words, higher than Ishtos, the word you could use is Taka. You could use Taka Pashut. By the way, if I become choppy, please let me know. I'll use the wrong connection because my internet's not that great.
You have officially become.
I'm sorry?
I said, I don't know. For me, it's choppy. I don't know if it's my service. Or everyone else also.
Yeah,
Right.
it's choppy.
Yeah, so 1 second. Okay, I hope this will work a little better. So I'll use a phone connection. You let me know if it's better or worse. I hope it's better. So ask for thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, so now so that is basically the Hachra of Chassidus in the Machlekes is that it depends if he's speaking about Lifnat Tzimtzum or Achat Tzimtzum. In other words, before this lapses the Achat Tzimtzum, before the Eibishter comes down into Tzimtzum to pack it all Pashut, you can't use any Hagdoros. Once the Eibishter comes into Tzimtzum, so then you already have the idea of establishes into Hamad. You call the Eibishter all these Keiches, and that's when we start using these terms: Iva Chayu Yichad, Iva Gaimur Yichad, meaning the Eibishter and the Hayichud, the Ayers are one, the Eibishter, the Gaimur, the Kelim, the bones, the Kelim are one. That means start calling the Eibishter a idea of establishes. Now. And so the Alter Rebbe sort of is talking about L'Achat Tzimtzum, that when the Rambam already starts being Magya, the Eibishter as a Seichel, as a Koyach, but it's not in a way that's disconnected from the Eibishter. And just to bring out the Seder, the Alter Rebbe is Medayik. The Alter Rebbe goes through the idea that the Eibishter is that there's the aspect of the Eibishter that's in the last of the Tanya. That all the kindim shekinelei hanavim v'chazal, we 4 or 5 lines into the perek. Then chanan v'racham v'chesed v'kayetz v'hem chay ma shnikar chacham v'chsiv gam v'chacham v'chay netzei nitzei Hashem ezreya v'chavetz chesed
v'roisa b'shabbatim shal shayim v'enei chafetz v'misasam v'rishon otar neimer yitzra. So all these things, they're not at all massive any type of riboy v'harkava. So just to point out, just to point out in the alternate breakup, obviously it's Midas, then Chabad, and then Rotten. But the word is that each one of these has a chiddush. In other words, what's the word of Harkava? The word of Harkava means that there's something besides me. Any type of Harkava, and you have very, very low types of Harkava. You have an object which is made up of many parts, so there's a Harkava. But then you have a more able type of Harkava, anything which there's something native to the essence thing. There's something besides the core issue. There's something in that core issue. There's something which I need to still add to that core issue that is already called Harkava. So the alternative starts with Midas. We know that the whole idea of Midas, we're not talking about mitzvah mimers, the whole idea of Midas is the way we interact with things around us. Now, the difference between a sichli and a Baal Midas. A sichli, the best thing in the world you could do with him, lock him in a room with a sefer, and he's me'ein elamaba, and especially if you get a new set of Chidah or Shulchan Aruch, and he could be locked in for 24 hours in a room, it'll be amazing. But a Baal Midas needs to interact with people around you. So the first step is we say, the Midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Midas of the Eibishter, an aspect of Midas would be Harkava, and if I'm telling you that the Midas of the Eibishter is not a Davar Neisaf. Now a step beyond that, Chabad. Chabad is not the way we interact with the world around us. Chabad, I'll say the way a person seichel is the way that he completely takes the world in his perspective. In other words, the idea of seichel is the way I am taking everything into my world, the way I am seeing it, not the way I'm bouncing off, not the way I want to interact with the world, but the way I'm not in the world. So a person could think that seichel is not even really our cover because it's all within me. I'm not ready to be mishachas to the world so much. And therefore, after the add that even as a chacham, it's also still our cover. And then the add even bertzainai. This actually goes back to what we spoke about the other day with the difference of rotzen versus seichel. Person has a rotzen. All rotzen is my rotzen. In other words, what we explained then is that in seichel means that there is a value in this concept. Seichel says, let's understand what this concept is. I've got more important concepts, less important concepts. There are these concepts which exist, and I am sort of understanding these concepts. So in the world of Seichel, there's an aspect of something being there. The idea of Rotten, as explained that Shiur, is that Rotten is only because I want it. Rotten is what creates this importance because I want it. When a person has a rotten, there's no real value to the world around him besides the fact that he wants it. In Seichel says, there's a value to that, and there's a value. There are several things. This has more value. This has more worth. This has more importance. Rotten is all about the fact that just I want it. So yes, Shleimar, that Ershainus of the Eibishter is not even called Harkava because it's all just. That's why Rotten is called Nefesh. It's just Netias Nefesh, it's the person himself. So it wouldn't even be a steer to Achtus to say the Eibishter has a type of Rotten. And that's why I'll say, but it's just not, even that type of Samuel Harkava. The idea of Rotten that also does not really exist by the Eibishter as a real Rotten that is all Meyuchat by Yisparach. Even the level of Rotten, even that type of want, which seems to be just expression of Eibush, not even giving any reality to anything around it, that is also still an aspect where there's complete access and no idea of Harkava. That's just an expression of these three steps, which Alter Rebbe explains. And because that by the Eibush side, Mitzvah Chabad, that is all access Hapshuta. And this is something that we're not together to understand.
So the Alter Rebbe starts with the lesser Chiddush, and that's why he starts with the
in a way, Midas is more of a Chiddush. In other words, we find midas by the Eibusher, but by midas you have to for sure expel that it's midas the way we understand midas, because that's real our cover. That can't be shaykh by the Eibusher the way we have midas. It's obviously a different type of midas and not really disconnected from the Eibusher. But as you go higher and you say this is not real our cover. Maybe even if the Eibusher has rotten, you could still call it an achtus. Because rotten is just sort of nitiyas and nefesh. Rotten is me. Maybe the Eibusher has the sameness, and it's not a steer to achtus.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we even dispelled on that very, very, even on that level, we dispel the idea of achtus. We dispel the idea of our cover.
One second. So you're saying it starts off with midas, which is the bigger chiddush, saying that even midas, which is obviously murkav, you're saying by us. By the Eibishter, it's ba'achdus, and by seichel, you can say, anyways, we would think it is ba'achdus, and the Alter Rebbe is saying, and nevertheless, and the Alter Rebbe is saying, just letting us know that the seichel, and also for sure ratzin, which we would anyways think it's achdus, right?
And I'm calling ratzin more of a chiddush in the sense that you might think that it's not even necessary to go to Achdus and Ratzin. In Midas, I understand I'm you to say that there's still an Achdus and Midas by the Eibush are not the way they are Midas by us. And then, okay, even Seichel, we have to understand that the way that the Eibush Seichel is different to our Seichel. That maybe Ratzin by the Eibush is Takasim to our Ratzin. And it's still not a steer to Achdus, because what's Ratzin Zachakol? Ratzin is the person himself. Ratzin is just a Nefesh. And still, that is even that still has to be the so different than our rotten. It's in a way that it's completely Hayichud with Eibusher. It's not that the type of rotten it is by us.
Even though that our rotten is anyways ba'achtus, so to say, with us.
Right, but that achtus, so to say, is not achtus. That's what I'll tell. That's a very strong notion. Yeah. Achtus pshuta v'loy murkaves klal. In the third line, hakol echad mamish achtus pshuta v'loy murkaves klal. Because in achtus you got achtus and murkav and a low murkav, and it's somewhat of a murkav, but it's not mamish a murkav. V'loy murkaves klal. There's no aspect of our cover in shittas of elikus as Maal said. The shittas. There's no Indian. Even rotten would be considered, because rotten says the word ritzos running out. There's an aspect of chutz. The whole aspect of chutz is only mitzad you, but there's an aspect of chutz in Ratzin, and therefore I still have to say that it's not the way we understand Ratzin.
Rabbi Rimmer is asking if it's Zu wegen Tzarech Leimer Zu, or if it's Leizer Ratzin in the order, Midas Chachma Ratzin.
So in the way I'm understanding it, it's almost Leizer Afzu, because in the Chiddush that I still have to say that there's an Achdus. In Midas, for sure I have to say there's Achdus. Even in Seichel, I'm going to say there's Achdus. And for sure, and even in Ratzin, where maybe we don't have to say there's Achdus, because even without explaining how there's Achdus, no, that's still a different type of Ratzin. That's the way. And this is based on the explanation of these years. If you want to say simplistic, you say the other way around, and then it just ain't layman. But I think this at an amkus in this look, that's very magic. Achtus sort of a layman have a cloud that even this area which doesn't seems to allow, you would think to allow an aspect of murkav, still there's no. So that is the way it is by the Eibusher. So the Pashas Mamish, Shihiyat Muslim will say. And that it's not all Miuchel the Eibusher. I'm jumping down like 5 lines from the bottom, which calls it Rambam. The Ein Kapapel Amra, V'Leiba Ezim L'Shamra, V'Leiba On Makir Al-Purei. Person is not even trying to understand this whole concept. See, because first of all, we can't understand it anyways. But at least you should know, say, Yediyas HaShlila. Even if we can't understand what we can't understand, at least you should understand why we can't understand it. There's certain nakuda of the Yediyas HaShlila. They say by a person, the highest sayach, Adam Sichai comes, Skolish Reit and Haskalavin, Akolka Shehem Bay. Now, this is a very big aside in Chinuch, in all relationships. We'll always perceive things the way we have it. A very famous muscle. This muscle is used for many things. It's a cute muscle. A guy's walking down the street, and there's a big wooden box there. So if it's a carpenter, he sees that as a closet. If it's a musician, he sees that as a piano. If it's a garbage man, he sees that as his next garbage collection. And look at this, everyone perceives any situation the way it is by him. When we hear a certain situation, obviously we perceive it the way it is by us. When we hear the word Chachma, we perceive Chachma the way it is by us. When you see any aspect, we perceive it the way it is by us. So when we hear any of these pereks of the Eibishter, we perceive them the way they is by us. How is, now, the way it is by us? So right, the Tzai v'Sechel Musar, the Mus Chachma Yidina. The most we always picture and imagine these things the way they are by us, and that's the way we assume it is by the Eibishter. And there's even a say for that, that it says that sorry, like how the Eibishter created the world that we should see Elikus within the world, but it's not limiting the Eibishter within the world. We are able to appreciate the Eibishter, but again, it's not limiting it the way it is. Now, how is it by a person? We say by the Eibishter is moved or river, it's madregas beyond the way we have it. I'm jumping like 6-7 lines down on page 170, pay on the base.
Can I interrupt a second? So the Alter Rebbe is saying we can't understand any middah, just to understand we don't have it. Why does the Alter Rebbe have to say it's not in our mouth? We can't explain it. We can't think it. We can't. Why does he go through all those now ears to hear it? Can't understand it in our mind. Why? What's?
I think this is Lashon HaRambam, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have a. Let's switch back to computer audio. Let's try that. Wait 1 second. I'm not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the deal of Lashon HaRambam, but is it better? Is it good?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, I have to work on maybe a system for the future. Maybe I'll just try to use a telephone. I do Zoom on the phone. I'll give you Teres Lakshan. I could say one is Hesber, one is Havana, but I don't know the answer to the question. You'll see. I think it's called Lashon Rambam. The first Rambam explained it. I'm quite sure. I have Rambam somewhere on my table, but I'm quite sure that that's the Lashon Rambam. Yeah, but let's just go right in the Snukuda. If I do find the Hesber, I'll let you know. It says by a person, the highest level is Chachma. Just the Chal, we know the Chachma is called Reishis. The Bereishis Bara Elikim B'Chuchmasa. The Tanya Mashalmi, I think it is, says B'Chuchmasa Bara Elikim, and that is the highest level of a person. Just a interesting note on Chachma. I don't know if people heard there was that Shiur with Yossi Jacobson about Rabbi Yoel and Shai Stab. He said a very interesting Nekuda about Chachma and Bina. It's a very geschmack Hesber when explaining Chachma and Bina and the difference of Chachma and Bina. Yesterday, in the way he explained it, the way he described it, he said he's having a birthday party and Real comes in and Chaver already not really in that mode. And Mitamol, he says to them, what's the difference between Chachma and Bina? So they give him all the hasbars, the light bulb, the flash, and an explanation. So Real said, a very geschmack about it, said like this: whenever we encounter a new concept, right away we have two options, two possibilities to work with this concept. This is not in concept, this relation, this is negative in many areas. Option number one is I lose myself to that concept. In other words, I put away all preconceived notions, I put away any part of self, and I look at that concept in the way that concept is, and I let myself float away to that concept. That's option number one. Option number two is I say, how does this concept suit my preconceived notions, my understanding, my previous knowledge? How do I let all this information settle by me the way I have already built myself?
It's not that thing of forgetting Talmud Bavli in order to learn Talmud Yerushalmi. Are we putting ourselves out of the way for the concept, for this new idea, or we are trying to translate this new idea into my present existence? He said that's the difference between Chachma and Binah. The Kud of Chachma and Binah, Chachma says all there is the concept. You don't exist. You are pre-existent, and that's like B'chalakshi in Tanya. The Chachma is the idea of Bittul, is Koyachma. Chachma is the way the concept exists without our presence there. That's the highest form of the person before he even starts. It's the way that the concept is there in its highest form before he comes into existence. Binah says, okay, now I want to start translating that into my existence. So that is, in a way, and sometimes sort of we can make a choice if we're allowing a chachma or we're allowing a binah. But the mitzvah dvarim is that chachma is that when we take the idea in its truest form, binah is the way we develop it. So any interaction, the first of the interaction is chachma, and the person is chachma, the way we lose ourselves to it. Then binah, the way we start understanding it, and then it goes through the entire status of the person. How that reflects in the midas based on the way we understand it. That's the way it reflects in the midas, and then it reflects in our machshava. Why do we think? What do we think about things we have a feeling towards, or things that are based on our feelings, things that we have felt about? That's what we think about it, and then when we speak about it, which are also an expression of our seichel and our midas. You could hear when someone speaks a passionate talk, one says a philosophical talk. It's a very different type of expression of speech because they are expressing different aspects in our seichel and midas, different aspects of what is going on internally in our speech. And then it comes into Maisa. So the whole hishtalshlus of a person starts from Chachma and goes to the 5 steps. Chachma bin, then the midas, then the machshava, dibur, Maisa. But it's all an expression starting from Chachma. Masha'enke by the Eibishter Chachma is mamish shavat asiyah mamish. So just to pull the Nukodis here together, by a person, why can't we understand the Eibishter's Chachma? Because by the Eibishter the lowest level is Chachma, and by us the highest level is Chachma. Or let's flip that around. By us the highest level is Chachma, and that then translates all the way down to Asiyah. But by the Eibishter, Asiyah and Chachma is Shav and Mamish, so there's no demon, there's no similarity, klau, at all between the idea of our seichel and the way it is by the Eibishter. I just want to, I know it's a few minutes over time, just want to add one likud I find that people, when I mentioned it's often a chiddush to people, is the idea that when we speak about machshava dibur maisa, what is the idea of dibur? And the expression I often use for dibur is sign language. Is sign language dibur or sign language maisa? You're doing a maisa, but it's very clear that sign language is a form of communication, a form of dibur. Now, the dibur does not have to, when we say that every process, as Alter Rebbe says, every process has to start in seichel, then in midas, then machshava is the way I talk to myself about it. I'm going to skip dibur for a moment. Maisa is the way I interact with the world about it. There's the way I talk to myself about it. There's the way I interact with the world about it. Dibur is that memutza, that is the way I want to express myself to the world. Again, machshava is the way I talk completely to myself. Maisa is the way I impact the world. Dibur is that area where I say, how do I want to communicate my message to the world? So sometimes it's by speech. By sometimes it could also just be sitting down and if I sit down and make myself a schedule of exactly how and exactly what I'm going to do, what I'm going to bring, what I need for this trip, and exactly that timing and all the details, that is really a form of dibur, of communicating it into a very practical way. So when you speak about dibur doesn't actually have to be speech. Dibur just means I'm translating this concept, I want to go on a hike. I would love to go on a hike, and the actual hike, but then how am I translating what's my schedule, what am I taking, what's going with me? I don't have to utter a word to be a dibur, but just that bringing that concept the way it is completely by me and linking it to be able to translate it into a place in the world, that is dibur. But again, that by a person, all these aspects are completely the way, all these aspects are an outcome of Chachma. By the Eibishter, so by us, the highest is Chachma, lowered down, all the way down to Midas. By us, the highest, by the Eibishter, Chachma and, Asiyah, Chachma and Asiyah, all the same by the Eibishter. And speak Shmak and the Kudus on that, but I guess we'll leave that for another time. So that is the Nekuda Perek. Just to quickly summarize, once again, if anyone has any shaylas or points, you're welcome to comment. So we just started the Nekuda of the according to the Rambam, the Eibishter's connection with the Eibishter's das is one. We spoke about the Maharal vehemently arguing on the Rambam of who after that HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'loi HaSeichel Baruch Hu. We explained that, but if not Tzimtzum la'achat Tzimtzum, but the Alter Rebbe stress is la'achat Tzimtzum. It's really in a whole different way than we understand it. We spoke about the way that it is ba'achdus. Obviously, that's obviously different, and obviously a different level of achdus in the midas. Even in Chabad, we understand has to be a different type of achdus, and for sure in Ratzon has to be a different type of achdus. And we spoke a little about the idea of Chachma and by a person.
Why are you saying and for sure in Ratzon? If anything, for sure midas is achdus because it's murkav. Meaning by Ratzon, I would think maybe like explained before. Maybe I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yes, thank you. Someone's listening. Yes, even B'Tzaynai is Achdus, even B'Tzaynai. So even B'Tzaynai it's Achdus, not the way we have it, but we have to explain that it's Achdus. That's not a Murkav. I might think you don't need to explain that, but that still needs to be explained. And then we explained about Chachma, and that's a Chachma bin the way I am misbattled to the topic, and that's the first level of Chachma. I'm going down to Bina. That's sort of what we discussed today. The next Nekudas are more connected to perek test, which I guess we'll leave. Maybe do a few perek test Nekudas, but then the next year I'm going to use the Aleph base. With any other silos, any points, you're welcome to discuss publicly or privately.
Rabbi Shusterman, where should we be holding for the next year? At the end of Hayichud.
I would like to. The Chesed has already one Nekuda. That's why these other Nekudas are really connected to perek test, which maybe we'll just mention because I get Geshmak and Nekudas. But really, the next year would probably be Yud Aleph. I will go through all of it. I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'll let you know because the time I assume I'll have too much Shiur on Hayichud, and then we'll see how we go by to beyond that.
Okay. Rabbi,
if everyone's in your RS or on
if you can just give if you can give two mashalim on two different things. One of them is everything starts from the Chabad, the Chachma, then to Midas, and then to Eisius in Achshava. Can you give a example? Because it's I remember learning this before, and I would tend to think, what's the example of how do you and basically not to get confused between Eisius and Achshava and Chachma.
Okay, does everyone sees the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, see, you see what I'm typing?
Yeah.
You saw what I typed?
Yeah.
That went through your brain right now. You didn't understand that because it makes no sense. But that went through the motions of your brain. In other words, machshava is an action we do with our brain. You speak with your mouth, you do actions with your hands, and machshava is an action that when thoughts go through your brain, that is called machshava. It's an action done by the brain. It's not personal at all and doesn't have to make sense to you. When you see on the board 5 + 5 = 12, you just thought about it. You could picture pink elephants, you could picture pink elephants going through needles, right? You could think about those concepts, but it's disconnected from you because it's only a levush. It is not a seichel, it's not a havana. In havana, you'll never understand it. In seichel, you'll never understand it. In machshava is just an action that we do with our brain. So anything could be done with machshava.
Okay. But are you able to give a mashal of how do you start something with chachma, with seichel, without having Oisius HaMachshava. I mean, you first have the Chachma, then you have Midas, and only then Oisius HaMachshava.
No, okay, no, that's not right. No, Einachanami, sorry, I must answer your question. Einachanami, you need your Machshava to service your Seichel. But it's just a mashars to the seichel. You can't really have. You'll have you'll have a trigger of seichel, but you will have to develop it right away with oisis hamachshava in a way that they are servicing your seichel to come to bina. But they are, in other words, it's in a way that it's completely just developing the chachma. As you have the flash of chachma, you'll have to have some type of grounding onto the chachma to come to a bina, but what's completely felt there is the nekudah of the chachma. It's not ISIS is in a way to develop it to come to it as a separate concept to yourself. Just trying to think of better ISIS for that.
Yeah, but from the Alter Rebbe's lashon, it sounds like it starts. You first have chaseichel, chachma bina, then you have midas, and if you have midas are the highest of Oisius HaMachshava. So meaning saying without having any emotional connection to something, why would you think about let's say sushi? Why would you think about sushi unless you have some taiva, some kind of emotional connection for it? Why would it enter? So first, sounds like first it starts with the seichel, then to midas, and only then does it go to Oisius HaMachshava.
So again, is your question about the midas? Your question about machshava in seichel?
So my question is, how do you have this example in real life? I'm trying to think. A person, let's say a person hears a concept.
As a simple example of this ishtalshlus, you're saying.
House. Let's say a house. A person says, okay, I would like to build a new house. Okay, so he first has the chachma, the flash, the picture. And then he starts in bina, the sign.
In that marshal, the chachma will be, I need a concept of a person's homeless. He has this concept, I need some type of cover, I need some type of protection, I need some place that I could call my own. But it's a complete concept. He doesn't even have those oisius. The oisius that we're using comes later. He just has this spark that I need some type of protection. Then Bina says, okay, so I need some house. I need some type of roof. It has to have some type of walls. And then he starts developing the picture based on his understanding. And then he starts liking his midas will define more details of it, different definitions of the details could be the size. Something that will be seichel, something that will be midastic, the colors, the size, the type. But then that's all completely in his world of self. If he wants to actualize it into perek mamish, he has to say, okay, what's this concept? What did I come out with? After finishing the developing the idea in my personal bubble, what did I come out with, and how could I go and practicalize that aspect? In other words, the machshava as a levush for itself is after I've sort of internally finished, developed the concept both emotionally and in my perspective, and then, okay, now if I want to bring it out into perek mamish stick away, let me just pull together, think what I need to do, how does it need to be done, and go ahead and do it.
So how would you differentiate Oisius HaMachshava to actually seichel? Meaning in this example, how would you what would be the difference? Where the Alter Rebbe is bringing the Oisius. So like I said, you'll have Oisius HaMachshava servicing your chachma and servicing your bina in the development of chachma and bina. Part of developing chachma and bina, you'll use the Oisius HaMachshava. But that's not Oisius HaMachshava to bring it down into an actuality. Mm-hmm. That's Oisius HaMachshava in developing the idea, where the emphasis there is the chachma and the bina, and just as a tool for chachma and bina, need Oisius HaMachshava. That's one type of Oisius HaMachshava. That's the sort of, you want to say, the Oisius HaMachshava, the way they're completely bottled in chachma and bina. Now, after I develop the idea in my mind, and I've emotionally attached myself to this idea,
So in my inner self, in my perspective, I sort of got the whole thing, but now I want to move out into a pile mamish. So I have to think about it. So I want this house with all these details. Well, where do I go with that? How could I? Who do I have to call? Where do I have to go? Which store do I have to go to buy it to? And I start sort of, if you want to say this, after you've realized you need a house and you've started feeling, you've got your feeling of your house, now you just start daydreaming about your house. You start thinking about it. All this daydreaming and thoughts are not developing the idea anymore. It's only because you've developed the idea and you attached yourself emotionally to that concept, you sort of now are these thoughts in your mind. The Oisa Machshava is an outcome, which are not still developing the idea. The Oisa Machshava, which are the outcome of the Seichel Midas, and therefore their job is now to bring it to Pa'al Mamish.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so you're saying it's possible to have use Oisa Machshava before even, so to say, Midas are there, right. But it's Oisa Machshava with a bottle to the Chachma and Bina, so it's not really Oisa Machshava. Yes, you are using that tool.
Correct. That's my understanding of it.
Okay. Because what I understood it was it was level by level, Seichel, Midas, and only then Oisa Machshava. You're saying you can have Oisa Machshava before.
Because the way you interact with everything has to be through a machshava. I'm quite sure I saw that in regards to perek of Tanya, but I can't tell you exactly where.
Isn't there also machshava? Meaning there's machshava, there's different machshava. There's
correct. Yes, right. Being Metzayer Ksav, for example, is Meister Sheba Machshava. Yeah, that is brought down. That I think that those are all in the low levels of machshava. In other words, the levels of machshava which are developing the chachma and bina are so bottled to the chachma and bina there, you almost don't even have oisius there. In other words, okay, we're going to go along to a different sidetrack, but it's going to be the same nakuda. It's people think in different languages, right? When you want something? Does an American want in English and a French you want in French, or we just want? So Bechalalis explain, and most people would say, I just want it. I think in a language, but when I want something, I just want. It's everyone just wants. I like that thing. The American likes and the French he likes, and every person just likes. It's a like. We don't like in a language. If you cut it down really dark, there's an aspect of Asius there, because there's any type of communication, there's Oisius. There's some type of Oisius and Machshava. But the Oisius and Machshava which are completely bottled to that inner working that you don't feel them as Oisius. You don't really feel the language there. You start feeling your language. I think in English, I think in Hebrew, I think in Yiddish, I think in French. Later on, once you're sort of finished your whole internal explanation, I'm just thinking about the idea. But so Bechlas and Chassidus, it says there's no Oisius in Seichel Midas. But it's explained that there really are very, very darkistic Oisius in Seichel Midas, because there can't be any interaction just with no Oisius Klal.
Okay. And just one final question. Can you give an example of how the Alter says at the end that you go from Machshava straight to Maisa without Dibur sometimes? Meaning if the person does it himself without telling someone else to do it.
The Alter says you have to go through Dibur.
But but
oh, so that's what I was saying before. Dibur does not have to be speech. Dibur could be, if you're planning it in your mind, that is Dibur. Machshava means the way I like it, I daydream about it. Very non-practical. If I sit down and communicate with the world around me, in other words, plan, what's my schedule, what I need for the schedule, it could all be in my head, but I'm starting to work with an outside of me factor. In Chassidus, that's called Dibur. Al derech sign language. There's a communication. Okay, sign language is a way even further because it's a little mice involved. But I'm starting to communicate with the world around me. I'm not just in my own bubble of machshava, daydreaming about the concept, completely disconnected from the world. I am connecting with the world, not completely, because it's still the way I'm sort of giving my message over to the world. The world doesn't have to be someone else. The world could be, how will I get this done? So any form of planning would be considered dibur.
Mhm.
Any realistic planning, at least, would be considered dibur.
Okay.
So you can never get to full Maisa without a dibur, or an aspect of, again, because Machshava is completely disconnected from the world, Maisa is completely within the world. Dibur is the way I connect with the world.
Okay.
Very good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Rabbi
you very much.
Weberman, you want to tell us where to be holding at the end of Shinches?
Yeah, I'll post it maybe tomorrow. Or,
Okay, beautiful. Beautiful.
Okay.
Shakara, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Rabbi Smith.
I just say this.
Yeah, I was actually going to say Chodesh Elul is a time to be said to be Mosif in Nimad Chassidus, so it's very appropriate.
Okay. And then Hilchah Shabbos and Rabbi Okay, I hear. It depends on the box. It depends who's looking at the box.
Any aspect of Nimad Torah and Kima Mitzvah Beheder is good.
Right. Okay.
Rabbi Smith, should I just end, or should I make you host?
No, you can end, and it'll dinner. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, bye.